Hey team, thank you so much for joining and welcome to our show today. As always with the In the Funnel webinars, our only goal and objective is to share some strategies and processes and tools that you can use for you and your business and your industry today to sell better. And as all of us start to think about where we are regarding timing, we've got 6-7 weeks here left in the sprint home for 2021. Some of these strategies and concepts and principles are going to be just so critically important so that you can end the year on a bang. They're also going to be tremendously important as we get a running start to 22, which could be one of the most unique years in business history, just in terms of momentum, positivity, optimism, all those kind of good things. As many of you know, I'm a real fan of the statement, which is actually accredited to Mark Twain, but there's always this debate as to whether or not he came up with the statement. And the statement is, I wrote you a long letter. If I had a little more time, I would have written you a short letter. I just love that statement for communication, for business, for strategy, for sales communication. And that's why I am so excited, by the way, one of the many reasons I'm so excited to interview Diane Helbig here today. Diane is author of this spectacular book, Succeed Without Selling. The more you think about selling, the less you'll sell. The more you think about selling, the less you will sell. And Diane's a tremendous personality, an international business coach, and she's a leadership change agent. Love the name of her company, Seize the Day, Carpe Diem. Goodwill Hunting. Love the movie, love the name, Seize the Day. She's an award-winning author. This is not her only book, which I'll get to in a second. And she's an award-winning author and a public speaker, and she is host of her own podcast called Accelerate Your Business Growth. Accelerate Your Business Growth. Diane's written 2 other books, Lemonade Stand Selling and Expert Insights. And Succeed Without Selling, one of the things I'm going to just call out is the genius of this particular book is that Mark Twain statement at the beginning. I think this is in the category of those simple but powerful sales books out there, or coaching books. I put kind of The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier in this category of, it's just so clear and so well written that it's a comfortable read, an easy read, but it's just loaded with insight. And I happen to know that that insight is actually backed by facts and research, because we believe many of the same things, but it's just so clearly written. Almost every paragraph has some nugget that you can grab and apply to you and your business today. And as many of you have heard many a time on these webinars over the last number of months, I actually believe there's this common sense revolution coming in professional sales. I think for too long now, we've been throwing too many people into this whole business discipline. We've been treating it as a trade instead of the profession it truly is. And we've actually fatigued our customers. So now we're seeing the lowest levels in recent history in terms of customers seeing value in interacting with salespeople. So there's this common sense revolution that's got to take place. And frankly, this book is a really good step in that direction. It's simple, clear, but almost every point Diane makes in the book, and we're going to talk about a lot of them here today, speak to this just common sense. Sell the way you want to be sold to. It's not about pitching a product. It's actually about finding out more about your client or prospect and the better future that they want. Make it all about them. In a networking, I love her advice at networking. Networking, get to know somebody else. Don't start pitching your products, and you're not going to start referring, and they're not going to start referring until they actually know who you are and they trust you. So much great insight here, and we're going to dive into lots more of it. But let's first of all welcome and thank Diane for joining us here today. Diane, thanks so much for coming.
Well, thank you so much for those tremendous words about my book. I appreciate it, and I'm thrilled to be here with you, Mark.
Oh, great. So where are you coming to us from today, Diane?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Who got recently inducted there?
Carole King.
The Go-Go's?
Oh, the Go-Go's, right. All people from my era. Yeah, I don't remember who the other ones were.
Yeah, that's my era too. And I was a hockey player, but also a big fan of the Go-Go's. And those two things didn't mix that well back in 1985. I can tell you that. It was a good thing I was reasonably okay hockey player because I wouldn't have lasted that long on the team, given my musical taste. Still love the Go-Go's, and there's a fantastic documentary on them floating around.
Yeah, love them. Yeah.
So Diane, tell me a little bit, how did we get to this point? Tell us a little bit about your sales journey. So what was your background that got you to where you are today?
So thanks for asking, Mark. So I was actually in leadership in a small company, and the owner said, Diane, you have to go into sales. And I thought, no, I don't think so. No, not for me. And after a lot of conversations about it, I said, okay, I really didn't have a choice. I said, okay, fine. And I took the Dale Carnegie sales training course.
Nice.
I know, like the best. Yeah. Beyond. So, and thank goodness, because it gave me what I needed was how to start that conversation. Mm-hmm. I believed completely in what I sold. I just didn't know how to start it. So I sold for them for a couple of years, and then I moved to, so we sold a service. Okay. And then I moved to another company where we sold a product. So I ended up being on both sides of that equation and always selling to businesses. It was always B2B.
You know, it's funny you mentioned with Dale Carnegie, and for those folks who've never heard, if there's our people who haven't heard, Dale Carnegie wrote his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, in the 30s, and it still remains one of the nonfiction bestsellers today. And frankly, you know, with the advent of technology and professional sales over the last 12 or 14 years, and the explosion of SDR teams that were just reaching out to everybody, but without a lot of guidance in terms of having that live conversation, I still think that book is perfect required reading for your sales team today. Just the fundamentals of building a relationship and engaging with somebody.
I do too.
Yeah, just beautiful. And then so you've written a couple of books. And during 2021, you release Succeed Without Selling. What prompted you to write this particular book?
So I do a lot of sales training and speaking and working with small business owners. And part of the reason I went into business for myself was to help small business owners figure out how to sell, because it drove me a little crazy that they weren't doing it well, and so they weren't getting the results right that they should be getting, and they didn't like it, and all these things. And I felt like there was so much to tell, and I really wanted small business owners to hear it. And you know, just as you know, matter of fact, straightforward. Okay, guys, really, this is what it takes. It is a mindset. You have to shift your mindset for sure. And so I thought, I'm just going to write this book. I'm going to put everything I think about selling in this book. I'm just, you know, data dump in this book. I'm going to have forms and you name it, so that anyone could really take that book and create a sales strategy that worked for them, that made sense to them. So that was the motivation.
I completely think, by the way, you achieved that goal. So when you're saying, hey, can this be applicable to everybody? You know, my background was doing really, really large deals, hundreds of millions of dollars. And then when we started our company 9 years ago, we started focusing on really consulting with mid-sized companies. So smaller deals, smaller transactions, smaller sales teams. And actually, I think this common sense wisdom in your book, it's applicable to either, to be frank. I mean, the fundamentals about, you know, getting away from trying to peddle or to pitch. The number of SaaS sales teams today that train their SDR team to use some form of trickery to start a conversation and just start, you know, exploding about their product or service with some hope that they could get to the next stage and book a meeting for an account executive. It's really a big challenge, because not only is it, you know, propagating this kind of stereotype that selling's about us and putting money in our pocket, and we've all got kind of commission breath.
Right.
But I also think it makes all of those people doing the work, they got kind of this veneer. They don't feel good about the work. It's not associated with their value system. Right. And there's just a lot of folks who aren't having much fun in professional sales today.
At all. It's so true.
What do we do? By the way, I know it's a crazy big question here, 10 minutes in, but since you wrote a book, Diane, you must have the answer to this. What do you think we do? We're always talking right now about a common sense revolution that's kind of coming in professional sales.
Yeah.
Where there'll be a bit of a culling of the herd.
Yes,
And
there will.
we're going to get to folks, if you can't have an engaging conversation with somebody with a certain level of business acumen, which everybody can learn if they want to, and then a strategy for really understanding more about the individual you're speaking to, you're just not going to make the cut on this anymore.
No, you're not. You're not. And I think we need to get back to, I don't really know how we got away from this, but business is about people interacting with people. It's not about the product. It's not about the company. It's just people building a relationship or determining whether they should be building a relationship. And that, I think if we could just get back to that, if we could stop focusing on, I got to make a sale, I got to meet quota, I got to pay the rent, all of those things, because then our focus is in the wrong place. And I agree with you, the buyer can't stand it.
Right. And you can see where they're coming from, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's we had Philip Squire on the show, let's say a couple of months ago. I don't know if you've heard of Philip, but he's written, a great book focused on value, using your value system to be the competitive differentiation. He's also kind of taking strides to get sales recognized as a formal profession in the UK.
Wow.
So yeah, kind of a cool guy. And so when we had him on the book, he's brought that up as well about, both sides of the fence here are just not having a good time as they go through this entire process.
Right.
And at some point in time, we just need to take this step back and say, how do you want, if you feel better about what you're doing every day, you can feel proud about what you're doing. It is a profession. It is critically important. And by the way, it's not just all philanthropic, but there is a strategy for helping somebody or deciding they're wrong for you and moving on. And you need to get comfortable in that conversation so you can sort of stay in the moment.
Yes.
And for some reason, you're right. I think this got lost. And the reason I always reference Philip is, you talk about this reputation for professional sales. He gives this great history of professional sales, like dating back centuries. But he says the first known, and I'll get the name of it wrong, Diane, but it's kind of fun. The first known publication about professional sales at all was like an essay in the late 1800s. And it wasn't an essay on how to sell or the importance of helping customers. It was an essay by someone telling the community to beware these traveling salesmen with low ethical standards and low moral standards. So the first printed word on sales was, careful, these people are dangerous.
Right.
All this in a world that actually has lawyers. Whoops.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't have said that. All my friends are lawyers. We love you. We love you. But how do we have the bad reputation in terms of business disciplines when there's actually lawyers in the world? It doesn't make any sense to me. So let's jump into this, the obvious topic, I think, that would certainly grab everybody's attention: succeed without selling. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why the title? First of all, super engaging title, but why that, and what does it really mean to you? And you talk a lot about that in the book. Very, very clear and powerful stuff.
Yeah, thanks. So the reason why that is the title is because I think way too many salespeople, and the ones who aren't enjoying what they're doing, are so focused on selling that they aren't even getting what they're going for. It's so bizarre to me. Like, they just keep doing this behavior that doesn't get them to goal. They don't enjoy it, but it's all around making the sale. So in my mind, forget about selling. Sales will happen. Sales come. But when your attention is in the right place and it's not about making the sale, that's why that's the title.
Yeah, what a mindset shift. Right? To me, that's the other thing. I think that in itself, outside of the result, the sale is a result of the activities.
Right.
You don't really control always the sale, but you control the activities that might lead there if you do them properly.
Yeah.
But imagine if you went into each and every meeting saying, listen, maybe I can help these folks, maybe not. The purpose of the conversation is to figure that out.
Right.
Now I've got a calm confidence instead of trying to pitch or dance or
Right.
do all of those other things.
Right.
You have this calm confidence, when they say, well, listen, what are you going to do to help me? And say, listen, actually, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Why don't we have a conversation about why you think you need some help?
Exactly.
And try and figure out now, always with a point of view, by the way, I might be able to guide them through that discussion a little bit.
Sure.
But boy, the calm confidence on even those inside teams when they're reaching out, if they're saying, I'm just trying to figure out if I can help somebody.
Right.
Let's
Because you
start.
don't know. Right. Exactly. Listen, when I used to be in sales, I used to say, I don't know whether we can help you or not, but is it worth a conversation? I'll tell you if I can. Right.
Right.
So right there, I had set the stage that I'm not selling. My trust factor went up. It brought the temperature down. We could just have a conversation and really get to what, if anything, was their need. And
Right.
did I have something that could help with it? Yeah.
I think all of us listening to this podcast in our own lives, we have those salespeople in our lives. And you know what? It doesn't have to be something super sophisticated. I always make this reference of, one of the best salespeople I've ever come across, frankly, was a retailer. And, he sells me all this stuff, this kind of stuff, the jackets and the business attire and so forth. And I remember going into this store. There's not as many great retailers in Canada at times. No disrespect to retailers in Canada, but for men's clothing, there's not as many as there might be in Cleveland, Ohio, or some of the big cities in the US. So
Yeah.
go into the usual store where I used to buy all my stuff. And I asked for my guy, and he's not there. He's no longer working there. And some other guy comes up to me and goes, "You're Mark Cox." And I go, "It's not like, by the way, I spent a ton of money or anything." And so I go, "What?" He goes, "You're Mark Cox." He introduced himself and says, "I'm the manager of the store. How can I help you?" And, I was one of those people that would take the crazy looking jacket off the shelf. It looked red and put it on and go, "Oh, got to have this." And he was the first one to kind of come back and say, "What do you do for a living?" Okay. Yeah, you're not really going to wear the red jacket, or it's going to look pretty good in your closet, but you're never going to put it on. So I start to say, "Hey, does this look good on me?" He says, "It looks good on me." And I go, "Should I buy it?" Because I don't know. What do you got in your closet?
Wow.
And so, 20 years later, in terms of a relationship, I just trust the guy,
Right.
trust and credibility. He's never trying to make the easy sale. He's trying to do the right thing for me.
Because he could have. He could
Oh,
have
yeah.
said, "Oh, that looks
Oh, yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Bring it up." Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But he's in the long game, right? He's not in the short game. He's in the long game. He knows that if he takes care of you, you're going to take care of him
Yeah.
by continuing to buy there, by telling other people about it, about the store, and I think we're all in this for the long game.
Well, I think that it's such an important message, frankly, Diane, because we know that because you and I have been in, I'm quite a lot older than you, I'm sure, but we've been in this for 20 years. So we realized, most of my deals and sales were in the US, but it's based in Canada. But even in the US, it's a small world. You keep coming across the same people.
That's right.
I think some of these concepts get a little lost when you're the second year out of university and you just got hired in an SDR team. And you were the SaaS company that is venture capital, and the pressure to hit a number is shocking.
Yeah.
And the person who's managing you was making calls 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They've been on board with the company for 7 months. They had a couple of good things happen to them. Now they're in charge of 8 people.
Yeah.
So these sort of thoughts and messages get a little diluted, I think. And then it leads to that either churn or lack of performance or a little bit of that unhappiness. But our customers, as you aptly point out in the book, our clients feel all those things.
Of course.
with
Of
a
course.
big,
And Mark, seriously, if I said to all of those sales managers and business owners out there, you're doing your business a disservice because your reputation is you have a revolving door outside your sales department, which
yeah,
means to the consumer, there's something wrong with your company. Is that the reputation you're going for? I don't think so. But they don't realize that this is it's not the salesman's fault, in my opinion. It's the philosophy of the company, and it's do it my way as
yeah.
opposed to, let's really build a great client base.
Yeah, I was with just an amazing leader the other day, and he was talking to me about a conversation he'd been having with his sales leadership team, where he was encouraging them to inspire the sales organization. There was this kind of old school world of just, tightening the screws and counting and, hammering and keeping everybody a little bit on their toes. And it was really encouraging his team to inspire them. And I think that's where some of this common sense revolution starts to take place, where we just say, hey, listen, your example, by the way, of those salespeople doing all the wrong things, the SDRs doing all the wrong things, the main answer today, when they're doing the wrong things and then they're not doing them well, the answer is, okay, let's do more of it.
Yeah.
All right, it's Q4. Let's just hit the phones and do a little more of it. And we've all had times in our life where, we got caught in that spiral, I think.
Yeah.
But boy, if we could just take a different approach, I think that's where it starts. And I think you're onto something here, of course. Got a great chapter, sales management. Yeah, with what you're seeing today, because you work with, some mid-sized companies also. So in some of those cases, the CEOs end up becoming the sales leader. Or if they're big enough, they've got a sales leader in between the CEO and the sales leader. What advice or coaching would you have for the sales leaders out there right now? Because frankly, I have a lot of empathy for those folks.
Yeah.
They're not lasting long in their jobs. The tenure is far less than 2 years right now. If you're a sales leader or manager of salespeople, you've got the 3 most demanding stakeholders in business, all over you most of the time. So, and it's all good, but you deal with clients.
Right.
So there's number one. I've got to make sure, and they take a lot of time and attention and love.
Yeah.
I've got my CEO asking me about the sales number all the time.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid we got venture capital. The quarterly cadence is deafening. And then I got the sales team.
Right.
I got 6 to 8 people who need guidance and coaching and cheerleading.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they need a drill sergeant, maybe a little bit, a psychiatrist. If you had to manage me back in the day, you need to be a psychiatrist. So what do we suggest, or how do we help these sales leaders that are having a tough time right now? Because it's a pretty tough job.
It is a tough job. I totally agree with you. I think they have to really pay attention to what the goal is and then pull their team together and talk about how to get to goal. They can't be talking at them. This has to be a more than two-way conversation. They all have to be on the same page that, yes, we got to get to goal, but each one of them is going to go about selling differently. They're going to sell to different markets or different sorts of companies. They're going to feel comfortable with different levels of people. If the goal is to hit a sales target, then everything that they do should point in that direction. So whenever it isn't, and then I think the sales manager has to go back to the CEO and say, here's how we're going to get there. It is not going to be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
It is because we are in this for the long term. My goal is to get this company where it needs to be sustainably. So, and go with a plan. Part of the reason why all these people just give directives is because they don't think there's a plan.
Right.
And they can't think of one that makes more sense than the one they knew when they were younger or that they did. Okay. Yeah. Communication is huge in this sort of environment.
The ability to be nimble, I love that too. You're right. We all get stuck in our game plan, and that's a plan. And it's not my plan that's wrong. It's your execution of it.
Right.
Well, how do I know that it's your execution of it? I have no time to coach you anymore.
Right.
I'm not sitting beside you listening to calls, or I'm probably not jumping in the car, moving forward, doing face-to-face sales calls because of those three stakeholders that are all over me all the time. So
Right.
all I do is forecast or admin, or go in and take a deal from you and close it myself because I need the deal so badly to make the number I'm sweating.
Okay. And that is so short term, right? So I sit here and I say short-term decisions have long-term consequences.
Yeah.
So the sales manager has to figure out how to be the coach, how to be the resource. It's not or to get the resources to their sales team. And the sales team has to be able to say, this is the resource I need. Well, this is the resource I need. You know what I mean? Right? Because it's very individual. You can't lump them all in together and say, okay, go make 40 calls a day. Oh, okay.
Well, it's funny. I think, and for the sales leaders out here, hopefully this is a little bit helpful. In my experience, when you're the new person who comes in, there's so much churn taking place. I think you get this window, and let's call it, everybody always makes the alignment to the president. You get 100 days, you get 90 days. But whether it's 90 days or 100 days, I think as, a new leader, you get a chance to come in and you get to develop your plan because, maybe for one reason or another, they've made a change. Yeah. So people are kind of maybe listening and a little bit more responsive to some of your asks because you're coming in as a clean set of eyes. And then it feels like 6-9 months in, you're just the next person trying to execute on what everybody used to do. So I think you really have to capitalize on that. And there is, those of you out there listening, there is a spectacular book called The First 90 Days by Michael Watkins. And he's a Harvard prof who talks about your strategy for being successful as a leader, whatever type of role, not just sales, in the first 90 days, but it's really good.
I'll bet.
Kind of nice kind of guidebook of, okay, here's what we do. Here's how we communicate with the team. Here's what we do to develop our plan. Here's how we communicate up.
Right.
All those kind of great things. And boy, if I was a sales leader taking over a new team today, I would be communicating to management. We got to figure out how to coach our team. So either I'm going to coach them, or if it's not in my core skill set, somebody else needs to coach them.
Right.
But the team needs coaching.
Yep.
And it's not a one-time event. It's not the sales kickoff. And then we go, okay, why are we doing it? Why didn't your revenue go up 20%? Because nobody remembered anything later. But that's where I think there is maybe a strategy or two there at the sales leader level, regardless of the size of your team.
Yes.
How do I enable these people?
And I love what you said. I mean, you have to communicate up. You have to be that confidence to say, this is how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And get that buy-in of being given the opportunity to do it. When I talk to a group of salespeople, inevitably they will say to me, okay, but then what do I do with my sales manager who tells me to do X, Y, and Z? And I said, go to him and say, okay, listen, your way doesn't work for me. Give me 6 months. Mm-hmm. I'll report to you. Let's do a pilot program. Just give me 6 months. I will keep reporting because silence means inactivity, right? Mm-hmm. And try and work out a deal where you get the opportunity to do it your way. Then if that doesn't work, okay, then you guys are going to have to talk about something else. Right. But we got to stop this.
Well, what a great suggestion, Diane. And then it's always that collaboration. Mm-hmm. So I like, when you're having that conversation with the sales leader, keeping in mind, if you're a salesperson, your sales leader is not ultimately stable on a foundation of safety and comfort either. So there's a way of having that conversation that say, listen, I figured something else out that you missed, and now that's going to reflect bad on you, or saying, hey, I want to help you.
Right.
We've got goals and objectives as a team. Let's try a couple of different things. I'm still a great team player. So it's not about credit, it's about collaboration, but there may be a different way of going about this. And, can I get a chance to try this? If not all the time, a couple of days a week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And keep track of it and see. Because if the goal really is to increase sales, we have to stop changing the goal to do it my way,
Right.
right? I mean, it's got to be this, which means that everyone has to be open to having that conversation, that collaboration, coming up with a plan and strategy, working it, and then communicating about how it's working, not waiting till the end of it to find out whether it worked or didn't.
Where'd you get your great coaching along the way? Was there a best boss that sort of stood out that sort of triggered, this growth orientation and all of this love of this stuff? Or how did you get here?
Wow. Well, I would say that my father was a huge influence on
Yeah.
me. Yeah, he was a salesman and he was very good. And at one point when I was like in high school, he got vertigo. And so I had to drive him around to he was a furniture rep. So I had to
Oh,
go
wow.
drive him to his clients. So I get to watch him in action. And so I saw that trust. I saw that ease of conversation, and that they knew he wasn't just going to say, you need this, this, and this. He was going to say, I think this will sell in your store. Right. So that was a collaboration right there. So I really got to see that sort of thing firsthand. And then when I graduated from college and went into business, we communicated probably every day just about business and, sales and things. And then I had one boss who, from a leadership standpoint, when I went to work for him, I would go to him and say, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do this, because I was young. And he finally one day looked at me and he said, stop telling me what you're going to do. I trust you. Just go do it. You can tell me later. I was like, I don't need this right now, which was so empowering for a 20-something to, right? And so I knew when I actually did have to go to him and say, okay, seriously, Dave, this I need to talk to you about. He would take me to meetings with the president because he knew, and he said to me one time, what makes me a good manager is that I have people like you who know who know what you're doing, so I don't have to know everything. And that's the other thing about leadership, sales leadership, any sort of leadership. You are not expected to have all the answers, but you are expected to convene the resources to get the answers.
I think, boy, talk about what a genius in terms of, you've got somebody who's an A player already engaged and goes, I trust you.
Yeah.
Someone like you would just take that, and then it would make you even more hardworking and more committed. And you just can't wait to continually impress them the next time and the next time.
Exactly.
Because you've got autonomy.
Yeah.
It's I think the shame of it, or the challenge of it, is today, you talk about the transparency and the authenticity.
Yeah.
By the way, my team certainly experienced authenticity over the last kind of 12 or 18 months, because two years ago, we'd never done a Zoom training. So our core business was training people physically in a room, or consulting with people physically in a room, different cities, lots of travel, overnight, all of it ends. So they saw a lot of authenticity kind of overnight, because suddenly our revenue stream dries up, and they're saying, what are we going to do? And I'm going, it's a very good question.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer to it, and that's a very good question, but we're going to try these 15 things, and we pivoted all over the place. So, but that's where I think one of the challenges, where I'm highly empathetic, I think today, is with sales leaders, because I actually think the whole X factor on this whole thing is sales leader. I think we could help them, then I think the whole system changes. But if we don't really make a change there, nothing changes in the system, because we could train all the salespeople we want, but nothing's really ever going to change.
Nope.
But I just don't see them feeling comfortable or safe in their roles, for good reasons, because the churn is, less than 2 years.
Right.
When you were mentioning, by the way, the other thing I'd like to call out to some of the folks who are going to listen to this, you mentioned your dad as the furniture rep. And we do a lot of work with other traditional industries like manufacturing. At the beginning, you and I talked about one of the most important things in professional sales being business acumen. Forget what we do. Who cares what we do?
Okay.
What does that business do? And you said your dad said it wasn't about selling furniture, saying, listen, I think I can drive revenue for your business with this strategy. And by the way, some of these products will be part of it, but I'm actually thinking about driving revenue because you told me that's what you want.
Right.
I find that these manufacturing reps in more traditional industries, they understand that life cycle model like you wouldn't believe. They've lived the life of their customer top to bottom. So when you go in and try to coach them, they've got the business acumen, they've got the discovery, they've got the financial business case that helps make the decision very easy.
Mm-hmm.
All you need to coach them on is a little bit of the front end, leveraging technology to help them out. But really, everybody says, oh, the SaaS companies and the technology companies, they've just got a tech stack, but they need help on the business acumen, and that's a much more difficult thing to teach.
Yes, it is. It really is. But this is why I say, if you forget about selling and you just get curious and you go into discovery mode, right? Like that's what my dad did. He sold to a lot of different stores that had different clientele. So the furniture that he sold different furniture worked in different stores. He had to know that about them, right? He had to learn about them in order to really be able to serve them well.
Yeah.
And therefore himself and the company that he worked for.
It's great. So the client, the company, and then me. Here's that order.
Yeah.
And if you think of that order, priority, things work out well for you.
Right. Always.
Thinking about me and trying to maybe, let's get one more in here or sell an extra little bit of this or that. It doesn't really work out well for me long term. And
at all.
It's funny, we interview tons of people because when we're consulting, some of the CEOs need a little bit of coaching on how to interview salespeople, which we'll talk about here in a second. But the number of salespeople out there that still don't get that order, hey, it's all about the client, and then I got to do the right thing for my company, pardon me, and then by the way, great things will happen for me, right? So, but it's not about me. It's not about my stats. When I'm playing hockey, it's about the team winning.
Right.
Hey, Diane, one of the things I couldn't wait to talk to you about. So when I was doing the research over the last couple of days, founder of the Business Opportunity Network, understand that, a business development program where business therapy meets growth. First of all, whoa, what does that mean? Tell me about the connection between business therapy and growth.
So I started these groups a couple years ago where because I needed a group of people and I didn't like any of the networking groups that were out there, any of the leads groups that were out there. I didn't like their philosophies and whatnot. So I created this thing, and where the majority of it's an hour and a half, and an hour and 15 minutes is the people who come to the meeting bringing up any topic they want to. They can put any business topic on the table. And it's a safe environment, and we will build, just beat it up. Sometimes we have more than one topic. So it really, what they say is, and they coined the business therapy. I did not, but they were saying, this is like therapy. I just love being in this meeting because they know they're with people who are experiencing the same sorts of things they are. It's like group therapy. And they get answers to real struggles. And it's everything from, it's summertime and I'm not motivated at all, to we had a gal come to a meeting and say, I just lost my 3 biggest clients in a week. Okay. And we had to talk her off the ledge and give her some guidance with, okay, have you thought about doing this now? Doing that, so that she didn't feel like a deer in the headlights, right? Like our whole goal is we got to figure out whatever this is and help you get through it so that you can continue to grow and be successful. And that's what it is. And it's just fabulous.
Well, boy, that you mentioned, first of all, I think it's awesome. And when they came up with that therapy, I don't have the stats, but boy, I think there's a lot of people, and this is just an opinion, team. I don't have any of the detailed stats on this.
Yeah.
But you do come across a lot of folks who are not that happy in professional sales. And I don't know how you would do this if you're not an internal optimist.
Yeah.
I actually don't know how you live life if you're not an internal optimist, frankly. But But this in particular, with the amount of challenge and rejection and all of those kinds of things that we're going to face, and the natural ups and downs, that I think it's that therapy, which is kind of leads to why I think this coaching or this sales management role is so tough. You've got to be this chameleon, because you do have to have those expectations and, in terms of commitments and work and all those things. But also every once in a while, we need to just have a conversation with somebody where the track and the inspection, all that's off the table. We're just checking in.
Yes.
They need someone to talk to and to kind of unload a little bit and get a little bit of non-judgmental support.
Right.
Non-judgmental support. Yeah. That's not something that comes naturally to me, for sure. The non-judgmental support.
Yeah. It's got to be a safe environment. It has to be.
It does. Or at times, and I mean, first of all, it's got to be safe all the time. But there's time where we just get to kind of strategize on an account, which is, hey, what should we do? Hey, let's collaborate. And there's no inspection. Why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do this? That's all off the table. Forget it. It's the wrong time for it. The time is, hey, we're here now. What do we do? Yeah. Then a week from now, where we're starting the next one, then we start to get in to say, hey, what checklist should we start to create? Some good lessons learned from the last month or two to make sure we actually get the running start on this one that we didn't get last time.
Right. It's a learning, right? It's a constant learning environment, but it should be a learning environment. It should not be a judgmental. It should not be, the question why needs to leave our vocabulary. Instead of asking someone why they did something, ask them to explain their thought process when they did it, because you'll get a really great answer and then you'll know.
Right.
That's what you want to know. If you think about it, what do I want to know? I want to know, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
But I don't want to ask it in a rude way. So, right. Because I need to know. So either you're absolutely right, or it gives me a platform to have a conversation with you.
By the way, what a great question for a sales manager. So walk me through that thought process, because when I've had the wherewithal to do that, Diane, you learn something.
Right.
Because I was over here going, this is what I was thinking would do it. Then they come out and you go, actually, that actually is a kind of an interesting way of coming to this thing. I never thought of that. That's fantastic. And you find that opportunity, to find somebody doing something right. Hey, I always bring up the story. The folks on these webinars probably tired of me, and podcasts tired of me saying them, but I was actually the world's worst sales manager and the first first professional sales management job. And what had happened was I was kind of the, top performer. So on a Friday, I'm the top performer, in control of everything, my whole destiny, everything's going great. Monday, now I'm running the team. And 2 months later, everybody on the team was miserable, but I was as miserable professionally as I could ever remember being.
Sure.
Because, I'd hoped for so long to become that sales leader. This is back in 1999 or 2000. I'd been waiting so long, like 2 or 3 years, it seemed like forever. Yeah. Then you get the mantle and go, man, this is no fun. My success is dependent upon those 5. And then you immediately default to every conversation was just judgmental. They felt it, so they were miserable. I was miserable because I thought, I know how to do this perfectly. Why don't you just do exactly what I did?
Right.
We'll multiply that by 5 and I get rich. And it was all about me.
Of course.
I was so funny, but it was so fortunate because it was a large company. So they make mistakes. So even though I was the worst sales manager in the history of time, I kept getting promoted. And I got promoted to run a business that I knew nothing about. So now when the sales team were coming in and talking to me about things, they'd go, here's what's going on. What should I do? And I'd go, I don't know. What do you think you should do?
Right.
I had no context to tell everybody. And so suddenly these people start to develop because they're making decisions and we're talking about their thought process. And they're talking aloud, the pros and cons, kind of to educate me, but to say it out loud so they can make the decision. Everything sort of changed. And so that team became very, very happy. And I started to love the job of coaching people.
Right. Right.
Boy, it's a bumpy road to get there
Oh,
sometimes.
it is. I know. But that's why, we need people like you and the people out there who are trying to explain this to sales managers about, being a leader has a certain, definition, and it's probably not what you're thinking it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a huge opportunity, I think, there. Two last quick questions. By the way, what a joy, like real pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks, you
Um,
too.
Diane, out there today, if we've got, folks who are continually trying to learn and develop and grow, outside of reading, for sure, succeed without selling. The more you think about selling, the less you'll sell. What other resources do you like for your knowledge in terms of your personal growth out there? Whether they're podcasts, whether they're, Gardner Group or Chief Sales Officer, what are the resources you leverage to continue your growth?
So I love to read books by not just people like me who are writing about sales, but by actual, business owners like Jeff Morrill wrote Profit Wise, and it's a great book. He owned a car dealership. So we instantly go to, oh no, right? But this is what's like, I highlight the book and whatever. So I like reading books that have real world experience and really explain from the leader's point of view what works and what doesn't work. On my podcast, I get to interview a ton of people, so I get to hear everything that they have to talk about. And I like the Gartner Group actually a lot. I like Harvard Business Review too,
Yeah.
because that's got a lot of really valuable information there for all of us. And HubSpot, interestingly, they try and keep up on trends more on the social media side of things, but it's so integrated with sales that
there's a great nugget, folks, for everybody out there. Sign up for the lists for HubSpot, Salesforce, Outreach, SalesLoft, because as you LinkedIn, because what they're trying to do is they actually go and do research, but instead of having the line of sight of your company, they have the line of sight of every company using the platform in their SaaS model.
Yes.
So they talk about, hey, what works in an email outreach, but they have 10 million email samples.
Right.
And you have the 50 you sent last week. So there are some data points in here that, sometimes they contradict and so forth, but we need some source of this data. And so I always find the State of Sales and, Salesforce and HubSpot, a lot of those are very, very good.
Yeah.
By the way, the Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast with Diane, clearly from today's discussion, that's going to be a discussion you're going to find a lot of value in. And those topics aren't exclusively sales. A lot of topics in there about leadership and other key elements of business.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Where else can the team find you, Diane, if they want to learn more?
Sure. Well, and thank you for asking that. And can I just say how much I've enjoyed having this conversation with you, Mark?
Sure. Thank you.
The easiest way is to go to helbigenterprises.com. They can find, the podcast. There's free resources they can download. They can find out about the book, training programs, everything's there.
Fantastic. Hey, team. Thank you, Diane. Just great to meet you. This won't be the last time we talk, for sure. So just great to meet you.
Me too.
Team, Succeed Without Selling. Okay, this is a fantastic book to pick up right now. And one thought for everybody, just to take away from today. We're in this kind of 6-7 week window as we sprint to the end of the year. And we know what happens at this time of year. We're going to get caught up. We're going to get engaged. A lot of companies, really exploding out of the gates and doing very, very well.
Yeah.
And just like to invite everybody to make sure we're taking our downtime when we can get it, and we just sort of pace ourselves up, because many of us have had probably a pretty stressful couple of years here. So as we try and ramp up again for Q4, we just might not have as much gas in the tank.
Yeah.
Be good to yourselves. Find some ways to have fun, interact with your teammates, to, whether it's on Zoom or otherwise, to, collaborate and enjoy yourselves. But let's make sure we have a good time as we roll into the holiday season. And as always, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And if you liked what you heard, let us know. And if there's a way we can improve it, let me know. So it's Mark Cox at inthefunnel.com, Mark Cox at inthefunnel.com. You let us know how we can improve this, and thanks to everybody. Diane, thank you a million. So
Thank
great to
you.
meet you here today.
Thanks, you too.